In February of 1776, Thomas Paine wrote his pamphlet, Common Sense. And in it, he argued that it was not common sense that a continent would be ruled by an island. That it was not common sense that a free people would be ruled by a king. He also wrote that it was common sense to fix this problem as soon as possible because it would be hard to fix it later. By December of that year, he understood how hard it would be to fix it. So he wrote another pamphlet that began with the famous words, "These are the times that try men's souls." If he were here today, he would tell us that it's not common sense that a people that has been free for 250 years will give up their liberty to a gangle of unprincipled politicians and bureaucrats in Washington. And we're not going to do it. It's not going to happen. And the reason it's not going to happen is in this room, and the rooms like it all across our country. Our families, all of our families, your families, my family, all of our families have risen up across this country, tens of millions of people, to see that this drift away from liberty is ended. And it will succeed. The Republican Party is a vessel that will be used for this. The Republican Party has even greater importance than it's had in its 150-year history. Because the Republican Party now is leading a coalition of all of the liberty-loving parties in this country. All of them. We could name these parties. There are many. There's the Tea Party, the Libertarians, the Constitutionalists, Independents, many Democrats. The Republican Party is the only political force in the country strong enough to stop this. And it is only strong enough because of the Liberty Coalition that is leading throughout the country. The press and the media keeps talking about trying to make divisions and so forth, but we're fortunate this time our candidacy, this little one for Congress that we're doing, is receiving a lot of support from the National Republican Party, and this has caused me to know these people much better. And I'm sure they're up to the job. And I'm sure that all of the people that are working for liberty in the country are going to come together under this banner and slow, stop, and then reverse the drift that the direction that we've taken. We'll do our very best here. This is just a tiny part. Of course, the presidential election is much larger. Our problem is in the U.S. Congress. The Founding Fathers did an experiment, the greatest experiment in human history. Throughout thousands of years of human history, people have always been ruled by large governments. People were slaves of governments. They were subjects, not citizens. Some of the excuses were kings, queens, conquerors, ecclesiastics. There were all kinds of words used. But the fate of ordinary people was poverty, slavery, and war. They started an experiment 250 years ago. They decided to set the individual above the state. And they wrote a constitution to assure that. And in that constitution, they specified that the United States Congress, sworn to uphold the Constitution, would be the body that would protect our liberty. It gave the Constitution, gave Congress certain simple things to do, make sure the country is defended, run the Justice Department, a few other simple jobs, but primarily it was there to protect our liberty. Then the final protection, of course, was the people, because we were given the right to toss these guys out every 2 years if they didn't do that job. Unfortunately, we haven't been doing our job. And the Congress has strayed. It has done many unconstitutional things to us. And many of the things it's doing, or has permitted many things, it's been doing this past week, permitting the president to do unconstitutional things. The Congress has now got us into a terrible position. The regulation, taxation, and debt that they have placed upon us is enormous, and we have to stop it. I don't have time to go into all these things, but I gave you a whole book, right? So let's illustrate about one thing. We talked about, we're worried about the debt. How do you borrow $15 trillion? Well, one of the things you need is collateral. And the collateral for that debt is us. Our labor, our children's labor, and our grandchildren's labor. They have collateralized this gigantic debt with us. Our involuntary servitude. But involuntary servitude is against the law since the Civil War. But that's our situation. We must return the Congress to Congress Act. And I'll finish by mentioning something about Congress. For the first 100 years, the average tenure in Congress, the graph in the book, you'll see, the average tenure in Congress was 2 to 3 years. Congressmen were citizen volunteers. They served for short periods. People went in their community and they said, hey, Joe, several people went to see Joe down the street. They said, you know, your business does well. You've not cheated anybody. You have respect for the community. It's your turn. And Joe would say, oh, now look, I got a lot to do. This will be hard in my business. On the other hand, while he's saying that, he's getting sort of proud because they came and asked him. And he's thinking maybe it'd be fun to be in Washington for a year or two, and they would convince him, and across town, another group would convince a friend of theirs, and they'd have an election. And one of the two of them would go up and serve for a couple of years, come home, resume their life, and get somebody else. Now we have a different animal. We have a career politician. A career politician, on one side of his desk is a nation's business, and on the other side of the desk is his self-interest. They serve an average of 10 to 12 years. They have nothing to come back to. Their life is their career. So when they make a decision, that decision often turns to their self-interests and their re-election rather than the nation's business. That's why we have debt. Since Pete DeFazio has been in office, the Congress has spent $50 trillion and taken in $40 trillion. Now these are not foolish people. They know that they spent $10 trillion more, but the more they spend, the better chance they have to be re-elected. It's simple. And I can go on and on and on. But the bottom line is that our freedom is in danger. The American people realize this. They've risen up by the tens of millions now with all kinds of descriptions in their organizations, all kinds of leadership, all kinds of different points of view. We all have one thing, to get our country back and restore our country to the liberty that's specified in the Constitution. After we've done that, we can go to squabbling about our differences again. And I thank you very much for your support. We're going to win this election this time because I don't want to have to do this again.